In today's video, I wanted to talk about how to get your horse on the bit and also answer a lot of common questions riders have about that. So a lot of times we're just expected to know what that means, but in reality, it's not ever really broken down for us. So in this video, I wanted to break down exactly what that is, what you're looking for when your horse is on the bit, and just some other misconceptions that surrounds this in the horse community. I'm not a professional dressage rider, and the fact of the matter is normal horses aren't gonna look like dressage horses when it comes to getting on the bit. Dressage horses have had lots of training around that, so they look a little different when you're initially teaching your horse or learning how to get your horse on the bit. So today, I'm just gonna walk through the very basics of what it means to get your horse on the bit and how to do it. So let's talk about what is getting your horse on the bit. So getting your horse on the bit isn't just getting your horse to round their neck and hold their head a certain way. Getting your horse on the bit, what you want to accomplish is you want your horse to be pushing from its hind end through its body into its neck and into the bit. You want your horse searching for the contact of the bridle. Why is it beneficial to get your horse on the bit? There's a number of reasons for this. Number one, it helps your horse focus. Instead of letting your horse be looking around and getting distracted, it kind of brings your horse in and collects them to where they're really focused on what you're asking. For me, the most important thing about getting the horse on the bit is asking them to carry themselves correctly. When a horse is properly on the bit and they're engaging through their whole body, so stretching from their hind end up, through their back, through their neck, and into the bit, they're actually carrying you passively, so it's a lot better on their back. Another benefit is that it does give you more control of your horse. Since your horse is focused in on you, it's gonna make it a lot easier for you to control them. There's also another side to that where sometimes it's too much control if you don't know how to actively move your horse's energy along. What will happen is if you're constantly riding your horse and you're up in their face and they're on the bit and they have that energy pent up, it can cause them to become anxious, it can cause them to rear. So that's just something to remember. You need to be using your horse's energy and know how to direct it where it needs to go. What does getting your horse on the bit look like? So I'm gonna show you real quick what it doesn't look like and talk you through that. So notice I'm walking really slow and he's just kind of breaking at his pole, but he's not using his back at all. His back is kind of hollow. He's kind of just breaking right here. There's no push through his body. It just looks kind of bleh. When your horse is on the bit, you really want momentum as they move. So coming from their hind end, rounding their neck, going into the bit. And the thing is, no matter how long your reins are, they should always be searching for the contact of the bit. So here my reins are long, and he's searching. If I shorten them, I still want the same momentum. There, we almost got a trot. Same momentum, but pushing through the body. What does getting your horse on the bit look like? So here I'm just gonna show you at a standstill. Let me get him to, he's not paying attention. So right here, I have his neck rounded. You can see his muscles are kind of bulging out. So that means his neck is rounded. That's just one sign he's on the bit, and you can't go by this to determine that. When your horse is on the bit, what you're gonna feel is you're gonna just feel a soft contact with their mouth to where you're just gonna feel a slight pressure, not like they're pulling on you or anything, but the fact of the matter is, even as you let your reins go and loosen them, you should still feel that soft contact from your horse. And lastly, you're gonna feel a lot more momentum from your horse, and it's gonna feel very like you're riding almost uphill, like your horse isn't gonna be dragging you down. You're more so gonna feel like you're going up and your horse is pushing you up. Now that we've covered all the basics of getting your horse on the bit, let's talk about how to actually do it. I'm coming from this from the perspective that your horse already knows how to go on the bit. If you're in a lesson program and the instructor is expecting you to do this, your horse should know how. If not, and you want to teach your horse how to go on the bit, comment down below and let me know, and I can maybe add that into a future video. The first and most important aspect of getting your horse on the bit is your legs and your leg pressure. So right now Tucker's just kind of plodding along. What I need him to do is I need him to be able to gain momentum when I add leg pressure. So there he instantly kind of picks up his momentum when I just give a little squeeze with my leg. And this momentum is what's going to propel him into the bit. So if your horse doesn't respond to your leg pressure, then they may have a hard time going on the bit. But I just want to be able to give a squeeze and him immediately walk out more, and I really want to feel the swing from the hind end. There's a few different methods I've heard from people when it comes to the rein contact and getting your horse on the bit. I'm going to share my method. Where my method starts is basically the side-to-side flexion from your horse. What I mean by this is I want to be able to reach down my rein and bring my hand out and back toward my knee and have my horse follow that pressure. And so I bring out, back, and he's going to dip his nose to my knee. That's where this starts. What I can do is I'm going to go and pick up on one of my reins and just flex him one way or the other. So there, he's just flexed a little bit. I can even try for a little bit lesser of a flexion to where his nose like that just tips and he rounds his neck. And so that's where this really starts in my mind, is just getting that flexion to even there where he wants to stretch down now into the bit. So I'm just teaching him to find the contact going from side to side. So there, he found it. So no walking away. There. And all this has really come from is me just asking him to, initially bring his neck around, and I got that. Now I'm just gonna ask him to tip his nose, there. And then when he goes to stretch down, I'm gonna let my reins go with him. And he's chewing and he's yawning, so that's a good sign. So now when I'm moving forward and I have a good momentum and his hind end is swinging, I can just take my reins and I'm going to kind of flex him one way or the other. So here I'll flex towards the fence, and then I'm just gonna close my inside hand to where I kind of get that round and he starts searching for the bit. And there he will even stretch. So that's how I start it, where I'll start with the bend and then I'll kind of close the fingers of my other hand. And I'm very light in my reins. Like, it does not take much. I'm not yanking on him. I'm not seesawing his face. All I'm doing is closing my fingers. I'm squeezing with my legs slightly. Well, there we got a trot. And he's really wanting to search for that bit. So this is good right here. He's searching through the bit. I can feel that slight contact. I can feel him swinging, and that's the momentum I want. So I can kind of flex him inside, and then I would close this finger to get it again. I'll let him stretch, because even him stretching is still him on the bit technically. He's searching for that bit. He's stretching through his body. So at the trot here, we have really good momentum. I'm gonna reach my hand down the rein, get him to flex to the inside, and then I'm gonna drop my rein. And see, you can start seeing his neck flex. So same concept. When I gather my reins, I flex him to the inside. There, we get him rounded. He's moving into the bit. I'm gonna add a bit more leg because I can't really feel that contact. There we go. So if I loosen my reins, he should go with them as he searches for them. If your horse is experienced with this, all you really need is to have momentum, so use your legs to push your horse into it, and then just close your fingers on the reins. And if your horse is initially bracing, you can just flex them from one side and then close those opposite reins, or flex to another side. So that's really all I do, and it works very well. What getting your horse on the bit is not. So number one, when it comes to getting your horse on the bit, you don't want to be seesawing on your reins. So I was initially taught that getting your horse on the bit, you're kind of like this. And see, he'll round his neck, but that's not keeping him from stretching through his body. In fact, he actually over rounds his neck. Another thing to remember is that your reins are just one very small piece in the puzzle. So the most important thing is your legs and getting that momentum, and that is not going to come from your reins. So I would say that's the most important thing to work on, rather than getting your horse to round their neck. Another thing riding your horse on the bit is it's not riding your horse on the bit all the time. Ideally, your horse will get to the place where they are balanced enough and have enough propulsion where they will naturally carry themselves correctly, and you have to rely on the reins and on the bit very little. So besides working on this routinely where you're actually riding and asking your horse to go on the bit, you should also routinely be working on bettering your horse's balance and bettering your horse's propulsion and bettering your horse's response to your leg aids. A lot of reasons horses have a hard time going on the bit correctly is because they just don't have that correct forward response to leg pressure. At the end of the day, we're all learning. No one's perfect. This isn't even something Tucker and I have mastered. It's just something I thought there was a lot of misconceptions about in the horse world, so I wanted to talk about it. Our Etsy store has a t-shirt for every kind of horse rider, no matter where you are, professional, amateur, We have a t-shirt for everyone. If you want to support the channel, go check it out at the Equine Helper Etsy store, and the link will be in the description.